Thank you for this introduction. My name is Victor Den Bak. As said, I'm the portfolio architect at Visma Connect. And you might be wondering, what does a portfolio architect do? It's one of the coolest jobs on the planet because I'm looking at all the trends in technology, but also in society. And that is very important because we need to look at what is our offering to our clients in the near future. And there is a lot that's going to change in data exchange. So what's on the menu today? I'll kick us off with an introduction to the data spaces, and then I'll go into the healthcare case. And then Sander will take over, and he will tell us how it compares with the world we know in XBRL, in standard business reporting, and also how this new pattern can be applied to multiple use cases. So one of the key takeaways is that the way we share and use data will change in the near future, and it will change drastically. And to illustrate that, I have here taken the, I always call it the pyramid of the Digital Decade program of the European Commission. They are, I think, one of the leading authorities in the world currently that is shaping the way we are doing business and governance in a digital way. And their goal is to align all the use of new technologies also with all the values we have in our democracies and in our societies. And I think we all know of the many, many acts that are upon us. We have, of course, the GDPR on privacy. We also have the CSRD on sustainability reporting. The digital identities and digital signing have come about with the IDAS. When it comes to digital resilience, we are talking about DORA, NIS2, etc. So these are all very well-known regulations. But today I want to zoom in on this particular piece of the pyramid. And you see certain things. Is there anybody in this room who has heard about artificial intelligence? I think there is. 10 years ago, maybe not, but AI is here, and it's one of the technologies we see as one that can bring great value, but also there are many pitfalls for society we need to avoid, and that's what the EU wants to achieve. But on the same level, interestingly, we see two other things, the data governance and the data spaces. And why is that? Because interestingly enough, when you look at the potential economic value and the value in society, that with data exchange, all the research of the EU has indicated that it has the same level of value and potential still as AI. So that's quite mind-boggling. So all the decision-making we do, the transaction costs in our economies, which are becoming increasingly complex. So there's many things of value when it comes to having the right data at the right moment of the right quality when it comes to decision making. And that applies to citizens, small, medium enterprises, and governments. So what is the data governance? That is about improving the rights of subjects and data owners when it comes to their own data. But just having rights is not the only barrier when it comes to having the right data at the right moment. You also need access to it. And right now, your data is not only on your hard disk anymore, it's in the cloud and it's in a dozen places and perhaps you don't even know where it is. So how can you exercise those rights? And that's where the data spaces come in. And the data spaces are a new way of thinking about how are we going to use data. And the main difference, the key takeaway is that we don't want to endlessly copy all the data. That's not very efficient, and by copying it all the way throughout the information chain, we're using old data for key decisions. So what's really the dot on the horizon is that we want to be able to access the authoritative sources of data and have them available, because those sources of data are of the best quality and have the most controls on them. So what does a data space do? Think of it as a many-to-many, a peer-to-peer connection that you can, instead of using large platforms, you can access all your other stakeholders directly. What you need for that is governance. So you need to have the trust, you have the rule books, you have to provide the legislation when it comes to these elements. You need to have a data-centric focus. You need to look at the authentic sources. You need to know about what do we mean with the data. That can mean taxonomies, ontologies. What are the definitions? We need to think about privacy and privacy-enhancing technologies, and also new exchange patterns. Instead of filing a report, accessing it with what's called a data pool pattern, at the moment, for instance, a regulator needs that data. And that is also the introduction to the paradigm change in healthcare. Just a bird's eye view of healthcare in the Netherlands. It's a very sizable sector. It's about nearly 100 billion which is spent on healthcare, which is over 9% of the gross domestic product. And if you look at the many comparisons that are made between national healthcare systems, the Dutch often rank in the top 5. So healthcare is of a good quality, but not without its risks and issues. Think about all the cost increases that are increasing faster than the growth in GDP. And the population is aging, meaning more patients and fewer people in the workforce. That means that the regulators need to change the way we organize healthcare. That needs really good data, but then you walk into two kinds of issues, that the staff are already overburdened with paperwork, and compared to other sectors in the Netherlands, facts and figures are often late. And this is described as follows by the Dutch Healthcare Institute. In their words, it's a bit of a spaghetti. If we see all the regulators in blue on the left and all the healthcare providers in yellow on the right, it often means that we are comparing apples and oranges. We are using ambiguous definitions. Just a simple thing as what's the size of your workforce? Does that include interns or not? Does that include overhead or not? And that's the simplest question you can ask. There are many reporting channels. Think about forms and PDF reports and questionnaires. So there's many ways in which data is being requested. And although it makes sense from the point of view of a single regulator, if you are on the receiving end of all these regulations, then it feels like you're doing lots of double effort, and that's very labor intensive. And in the Netherlands, the Dutch Healthcare Institute has started what's called the KIK fee program, and that's about to radically change the way we do reporting on quality in healthcare. And this is a public-private governance. We think that's a critical success factor. It's not just about setting the right policies, but it's also working with the healthcare sector, the software providers, the accountants to make this work. They're using a scale-out approach, meaning that they are starting right now in elderly care, which is very relevant in an aging population, but they're scaling out to more domains, but also to more exchange profiles. And I have some good news for you. It seems to be finally the case that in the Netherlands, the healthcare is also going to XBRL. As you probably know, we are already doing 940,000 what's called the annual reports annually. And the interesting situation is that the florist and the baker are doing XBRL, but many of the listed companies and other sectors that are just starting. Like stated, they are using a pattern that's ahead of the curve, using this data space and the data pool method. But also, in order as a healthcare agency, a healthcare provider, you need to be able to participate. Think about how difficult it is to make a phone call without having a phone, or sending an email without having a service provider. You need to have the right tooling, and that is what's called the data station. And that is also what you are using as a healthcare provider to connect to your data sources and becomes your single access point. Not a European single access point, but a single access point per healthcare provider in this network. So what does that look like? This is a picture in Dutch, but I'm helping you out. On top, we have the governance with all the rules of the game. They have a harmonized ontology, which is mapped as a knowledge graph. All the regulators in blue, they are no longer receiving reports, but they are requesting bite-sized pieces of data at the moment they are needing it. They are using this single channel instead of many channels, and the healthcare providers are reusing their authentic sources. What are those? Human resource management, financial systems, the planning, the electronic client dossiers, which all contain a piece of the puzzle in order to get the bigger picture you need as a regulator. And what's also being done is what's called data visitation. Instead of the idea of give me all your data and I'll do all the analysis myself, they are sending bite-sized queries towards these data stations, and only the answer which is being generated is responded, which is a major improvement in privacy. And all these queries are very granular. And it also means that you are no longer requesting data you don't have the legal rights to request or use. So we've seen many similarities with structured data, with reducing the administrative burden. So that sounds a bit similar to the Standard Business Reporting Program. And Sander is going to help you out understand what are the similarities and what are the differences. So Sander, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Victor. My name is Sander and I'm going to dive into SBR before we're going to dive into the KIK-V agreement framework. Standard Business Reporting has been a great success in the Netherlands for many years. Millions of XBRL reports are exchanged every year using the SBR agreement framework. Standard Business Reporting in the Netherlands is an initiative of the public and private sector and is defined or designed to streamline and simplify business reporting. When you look at the goals of SBR, the most important one is to lower the administrative burden of businesses by standardizing the way data is reported and exchanged. Another benefit or goal is to increase efficiency of service providing and also increase the data quality. To have a standardization in the Netherlands, we have a set of agreements under the SBR agreement framework on 3 different areas. First of all, on the area of data definitions. And in the Netherlands, we have chosen the XBRL standard to use for those definitions. So they are all included in the taxonomy. So all data businesses need to report in the Netherlands are included in the taxonomy, and the taxonomy enables data to be reused among different reports. On the area of processes, we have a central solution called DigiPort, and DigiPort is the central government electronic post office. It provides a reliable and secure connection for all data to be sent between the organizations and the authorities. The last area of standardization is technology, and there we have different open standards which are used within SBR, of which XBRL is the most important one. When you look at the use within SBR, it's mainly used for low-frequent periodic reporting. For example, annual submission of your financial statements to the Chamber of Commerce or the quarterly tax declarations to the tax authorities. And looking at the data exchange pattern, a so-called push mechanism is used. So a reporting entity creates its full report, submits it to a central solution called DigiPort, and then it's delivered to the Chamber of Commerce or the tax authority. Now let's have a look at the KIK-V agreement framework. When you look at the goals, they are more or less the same as the goals on the SBR. So lower the administrative burden, share data easily and securely with different parties, and improve the availability of data. Standardization is also on the same areas, but are applied differently within the KIK-V agreement framework. So for data definitions, instead of a taxonomy, an ontology is used, using the web ontology language. On the area of processes, a federative solution with data stations is used, which has been explained by Victor earlier on. And the technology used is linked data and resource description framework, RDF. And later on, I will shortly explain what the technology is about. When you look at the use, it's mainly used for high-frequent reporting on data point level with data visitation, which means that a pool mechanism is used, so an authority requests data from the data station of the healthcare provider and pulls the data he wants to have from the healthcare provider. Let's further dive into the technology. The resource description framework, it's a framework for representing information in the form of triples. You have a subject and an object, and they are linked to each other with a predicate. In this example, we have Alice. He's born on the 4th of July 1990, where Alice is the subject, her date of birth is the object, and the link is the predicate, and that's born on. Linked data, that's the method for connecting and sharing structured data on the web. For example, linking two different RDF datasets to each other, which can be visualized in a knowledge graph. In this example, we have two subjects, Bob and Alice. They are both extracting from different datasets, and they are linked to each other with the same object because they have the same date of birth. When you look at linked data, it has the same possibilities like SBR or XBRL, sorry, with hypercube dimensions, and it can be visualized in knowledge graphs. Knowledge graphs have several advantages over relational databases. One of them that it's more flexible. Now let's have a look at the last technology, and that's the ontology, and that's based on the web ontology language. The ontology is an addition or an extension on RDF to specify data type properties, but also object relations. In this example, we have Alice again. She is a human, a person, and an individual. That's all described in RDF. And with the ontology, you can also include an additional relationship that the human, person, and individual have the same meaning, so they are interchangeable. We have summarized the comparison of SBR and KIC-V, where the most important difference is the way data is exchanged. So a push mechanism on the SBR using a central solution digiport versus a federative solution with data stations where data is pulled from the data station from the healthcare provider. Linked data and XBRL are very useful in, for example, sustainability reporting. They can benefit from each other. For example, when you look at linked data and RDF, it's very good to be used by machines, but less suitable for humans to read. On the other hand, we have XBRL, which can both be used by machines, but with inline XBRL, you also have a human readable version. In sustainability reporting, when we want to gather greenhouse gas emission data, for example, from the whole supply chain, you can use linked data to gather data using queries from the source and suppliers. That data can be mapped to XBRL concepts, so organizations can create their inline XBRL based on the ESRS taxonomy. A presentation without mentioning AI is not a presentation nowadays, so we also got something on AI. To speed up the process and lower manual interference, AI can help mapping data elements to ontologies, taxonomies, and etc. And that can speed up the process of making your sustainability report. We're already at the last slide of our presentation, so it's short to wrap up with key takeaways. The healthcare in the Netherlands undergone an important transition to structured data, and with a federative approach, they are ahead of other sectors with using a pool mechanism to get data from the healthcare providers. SBR and KIC-V are both agreement frameworks which are a great success. They have the same principles, but they are applied differently. Both linked data and XBRL are very strong technologies which can benefit from each other, for example, in sustainability reporting. And AI can even speed up the process of mapping to source data. This was our presentation. Thanks for your attention. If you have any questions, You can ask them now, or you can come by to our stand later on.
So do we have some questions for our speakers? This is a very interesting approach.
Hello. Thanks for the presentation. It was really interesting. I was curious about do you relate the ontology to the taxonomy? You know, if you could maybe give a bit more detail about how you relate this definition, you know, of how concepts are related. How do you use that for the XBRL taxonomy, or how do you relate these ontologies to the taxonomy?
Thanks. Yeah, I think you already mentioned it's all about definitions. So you need to look at the definition within an ontology, where the elements are defined. And if you want to map them to the XBRL concepts, that might be another definition because it's on more aggregated level. But you need some semantic knowledge to map them. AI can help with it to see, okay, if this is in line with each other. But I think at the end, a human should also look at the semantics to see if elements from the ontology can be mapped to the XBRL concept in the inline XBRL.
Any other questions? Can I ask what success looks like? What does this look like in 5 years' time, do you think?
That's an interesting one. Currently, we are not only working with the larger organizations in healthcare, but also with the smaller ones. Think about organizations in healthcare. There are many tens of thousands in the Netherlands, and many of them have like a staff of 4 or 15 or something like that. And I think if you want to transform an entire sector, it's not only done by doing the top 5%, who have the big teams with all the skills in how to deal with data, but make it really accessible. I think that's the key to success. And that's what we are looking at right now at both ends of the spectrum.
And last question for me, this obviously won't work without extraordinary attention to security and privacy. Because if the expectation is that information is going to be pulled from lots of different places, you need to make sure that the people that are doing that pulling are authorized to do it. That's an EIDAS 2.0 problem, or is it a more complicated story than that?
I think that the EIDAS 2.0 is the key to success in that area, because especially in all federative systems, you need a lot more trust, especially if you want to automate, because machines can distribute data at lightning speed, so data leaks can be extremely massive in a very short amount of time. So we need to have security at the highest level, which is not only in like encryption and those technologies, but also making it very accessible to the decision makers throughout the organization. If you are giving a mandate or an authorization, what is the scope? Who are the subjects that are involved? Also making the EIDAS humanly understandable is, I think, the key. So it's just not only rely on AI, but you really want to mandate the right organizations and the right persons.
Thank you very much. Alex yesterday was saying that we really need to work on ensuring that we are collaborating in these spaces. This is a great example of ways that different standards can collaborate and create new value. So thank you very much for the insights, and best of luck as you go forward with this. We look forward to hearing more. Please join with me in thanking Sander and Victor.
Thank you.